What's up, everyone? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Niners News here on 49ers Hive. My name is Zach Hernandez. I'm joined by my co-host, Matt Llewellyn. Today, we're going to be talking about some recent news that, Raheem Mostert is requesting a trade from the 49ers. Matt, last week, his agent, Brett Tessler, over at Tessler Sports, released the following statement. After months of unproductive talks with the 49ers about fairly adjusting Raheem Mostert's contract, which paid him for special teams, we have requested a trade. Disappointing that it would come to this for a guy who led all NFL running backs in yards per carry and helped lead them to the Super Bowl. Can I get your initial thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't like it, and I think it's a bad move by Raheem. I think it's a bad move by his agent, and I like how he cherry picks the stats of yards per carry to kind of justify the 770 yards that he had last year. He's also acting like he gets paid pennies, which he's not. He's due $3.15 million this year, $3.5 million the next year, and he negotiated his contract going into a season where he was very clearly going to be the number 3 running back behind Tevin Coleman and behind Matt Breida. Now, it worked out in such a way that Breida got into the doghouse and Coleman was ineffective because between injuries and maybe, not being in Shanahan's system for a couple of years, maybe he was rusty. Who knows? But the fact is, Mostert did make good on his opportunities. But if she was on the other foot, and I heard you say this on the Red and Gold Standard podcast with Anthony, is that if, Mostert underperforms, can the team ask him for money back? No, that's not the way it goes. I could understand if this was the last year of his contract, but he just renegotiated that 3-year deal last year. He's got 2 to go. Now is not the time to tip over the apple cart trying to get yourself more money when you know that the team has to get George Kittle under contract, all these other people under contract. It's kind of a me first move, which kind of goes against the grain of the culture of the team. To a certain extent. And I understand that running backs have a short shelf life and you're trying to get yours. But if I'm the 49ers, I'm looking at past history and, I'm going to give you a couple names. Reuben Drones, Liddell Betts, Tatum Bell, Olandis Gary, Steve Slayton, Devontae Freeman, Tevin Coleman, Alfred Morris. I could go on. These are all running backs that had great and productive years under either Mike Shanahan or Kyle Shanahan in this running scheme, and then went on to do nothing else for the rest of their career. History is not on Raheem Mostert's side. This is a me-first move. I don't like it, and I think that it's piss-poor timing for him and his agent. And I know a lot of people are saying, oh, well, it's the agent's fault. Well, the trade request had to have been okayed by Raheem. So the agent's just not going to put that out there on his own. So for me, this is a little bit of selfishness, and I don't really like to see it.
Yeah, the thing that kind of irked me the most, and touching on what you ended it there with the agent's fault, I'm not going to say the entire request and this whole, movement was because of the agent, but it is technically his fault that he didn't negotiate incentives in his contract. I'm not going to sit here and pretend to be an expert when it comes to NFL contracts and agent negotiations. However, I think it's pretty standard, or at least often it happens that agents will negotiate. Hey, look at Sherman's contract. He a lot of it was incentive based, and he reached all of those incentives, and he got the most of his contract that was available. Whereas with Mostert, it was like a flat line. No matter what, this is what you're going to get.
Well, then in that case, I have a question for you. Mm-hmm. Why the hell did Raheem Mostert sign it then?
Exactly my point. Yeah.
So you can say the agent negotiated this, and that, but ultimately the player is the one who puts pen to paper.
No, and I agree to it. I'm not saying Raheem is not at fault at all, but I'd say they're both equally here at fault.
I disagree with that because the agent is the one servicing the player. You know what I mean? Like you can't go to a restaurant or whatever and order an extra large pizza, and then when the waitress brings you the extra large pizza, then blame the waitress for you getting fat. You know what I mean? Like, and that's like an extreme example. It's a weird example, but the same holds true. The agent is servicing the player. The player holds all the keys to the kingdom, so to speak. So if the player doesn't like something, he goes back to his agent and says, that's not good enough. And if the agent can't get it done, guess what? You fire that agent, you get a new one. So I don't want to hear that the agent didn't do his job, because the agent did his job well enough that Raheem Mostert felt comfortable enough to sign the damn contract. So now you can play out the contract rather than having a decent season, 770 yards. That's a good season. I know he had 15 touchdowns between the regular season and the playoffs. That's great. But you're living off the back of that Green Bay game, and you're trying to stick it to the team when the team is in a moment of, I don't won't say weakness, but they traded away Breida. You don't know what you have in Tevin Coleman. Jet McKinnon's coming back. What are you going to get there? You don't know. And he's taking advantage of a moment. And usually I'm like, players, get whatever you can, but history is not on his side. Again, the players that I mentioned before all had great seasons and then all ended up, but didn't do shit after they left Shanahan's system, or the Shanahans left wherever they were playing at. So history's not on his side. And if I was the team, I'd just be like, okay, well, we'll work on trading you. But other than that, you're just going to have to sit on our roster. And even at that point, I don't even think I'd facilitate a trade. I'd be like, you got a 2-year deal. You're stuck with it. So I know that's a harsh thing to say as far as, because we always want to be pro player and stuff like that. But man, at this point in time, when you're right on the cusp of something special, when you have a special group and you're tipping the apple cart to get yourself, I want to get mine. Like, that doesn't sit right with me. And I lost a little respect for Raheem Mostert over this.
Yeah, I had a few people kind of tweet at me that they're viewing him differently. It kind of went from like a rags to riches, at least in the NFL sense of practice squad player cut by 7-8 teams, however many it was. Finally had his, got his, and he had a breakout year in his way. And he kind of became a household name, rushed into the record books in that NFC Championship game. And then now you turn around a couple of months later and you're saying, hey, I want to be rewarded specifically for that, or else I want to play with somebody else that will. And my whole point, just touching on that, the agent situation was, if I'm a player, and granted, look, I'm obviously not an NFL player. I'm obviously not in these worlds. I'm not in these conversations, but I would think that they go to their agents and get advice from them regarding how does this contract look? What do the numbers look like? Is this what other players are getting? How does that break down? And maybe this is pure speculation here, but maybe Raheem Mostert trusted his agent was getting him the best deal and signed it anyway. Is it ignorance or the lack of research and information from Raheem's part? Sure. I'm not saying that he's not.
You have to be, listen, it's like what I tell people, because I work in the healthcare industry, and it's what I tell everybody in the healthcare industry. As a patient, you need to be your own advocate. As a player, you need to be your own advocate. If you're not sure what a contract says, or if you think it's a good one, listen, if you're looking out for you like you should be, get, just like you can with doctors, go and get a second opinion from a different agent. Hey, what do you think about this? One of the guys on the team, say, hey, can you get your agent to look over this, like on the hush, so we can just, whatever, and get it done that way. There are ways that you can do it so that, it comes out and it comes up the way that you want it, with you being educated on the situation, you getting exactly what you asked for and what you feel comfortable with. And just because you outperform something doesn't mean that you necessarily get to, tear up that contract and do something else. Next year, maybe it's a case. But here's the other thing that nobody's talking about. He said he wants to be in line with the other running backs on the team. Well, now you're going to put a wedge between yourself and who you're obviously talking about, which is Tevin Coleman, because Jet McKinnon restructured his deal. So I think he's on the vet minimum with some escalators in there, depending on performance. So you're talking about Tevin Coleman, who's I think getting 4.15 this year, 4.25, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
So you're talking about a difference of $1 million, and you're talking about on your own team, you're talking about another person's money. And to me, again, this is just one of those things where, hey, man, get all you can, but there are ways to go about it. And he's going about it in a selfish way that I think is going to negatively impact that running backs room and ultimately negatively affect the team.
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. There's that saying, don't count other people's money. Not only is he counting somebody else's money, he's counting his teammate, his family, his brother, in a sense, and it's not a good look. Now, let me ask you this before we kind of wrap this topic up, Matt. If he were to have this request after next season where he has 850 yards, another 10 touchdowns on the ground, essentially improves upon this year, would you have a problem with it then?
No, because then you're going into the last year of your deal. It's a contract year, and you're going to be talking extension anyway. So then it's an appropriate time to do it. It's just, you have 2 years left on your deal. You signed something as a special teams player when, by all accounts, going into the season, you were a special teams player, and it just so happened that circumstance worked out in your favor that you got a chance to do something. And now, just because of that, listen, just because you do it once doesn't mean that you're going to be able to do it again. Again, like I said, Reuben Drones, Liddell Betts, Alandis Gary, all these guys that were one-hit wonders that never did anything. Steve Slayton had a 1,000-yard year in Houston in 2008. The same year that I believe Matt Schaub went to the Pro Bowl. What are the common thread? Well, Kyle Shanahan was the offensive coordinator. I mean, he makes chicken salad out of chicken shit. And you got to prove that you're not chicken shit. You need to do it more than once. That's the bottom line for me. If he can do it again this year, then we can talk. But even with that being said, there's also a better way he can go about it. And I expect somebody on the team, I won't name names, but we all know who the leaders on the team are, to pull him aside and say, listen, dude, like there's ways to do this thing. And the way that you did it, that's not it.
All right, guys, we're going to leave it on that. Make sure you guys follow us on Twitter. Our handles are below on the screen. And also make sure you like the video, subscribe, and leave a comment below. Whether you guys think, do you agree with me? Do you agree with Matt? Is it more on the agent, more on Raheem? Is it equal? Are they both equally at fault? Make sure you guys leave your comments down below.
Go ahead and click the bell for all your notifications. We're bringing you 49ers news every day of the week.
Thanks, guys.
Go Niners.